everyone. Welcome to Listeners Beware, a podcast all about Goosebumps. My name is Gary.
And I'm Ashley.
And today we are talking about book number 18.
Monster Blood, Part 2.
Our first sequel. We made it.
We sure did. We made it all the way through to book 18. And this book was released in 1994. And I believe this was one of our shorter books. So it was about 121 pages. So yeah, it was a quick read. No corresponding TV episode, but that is okay. Now, Gary, since you're so amazing at it, would you like to give us the synopsis of Monster Blood 2?
It's back. Evan Ross can't stop thinking about Monster Blood and what happened last summer. It was so horrible, so terrifying. Too bad Evan's science teacher doesn't believe him. Now he's stuck cleaning out the hamsters cage as punishment for making up stories. Then Evan's friend Andy comes to town and things go from bad to worse because Andy's got a present for Evan. It's green and slimy and it's starting to grow.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, so if you couldn't tell by the cover of this book, Monster Blood 2 is surrounding our beautiful little class pet, Cuddles the hamster.
Poor Cuddles.
Poor Cuddles. And we still have Evan Ross as our main protagonist, and he's moved to that new location, what was it, Atlanta, that his parents had been visiting. So it is still tying in continuation of the story of the first one where parents were going to Atlanta to check on a job. Apparently they got the job, and now we're in Atlanta, and Evan Ross, well, he is not adjusting very well.
No. Congratulations to the parents. But it is nice, the cohesion and connectivity between the first book and this one. Like, it picks up basically where the first one left off with just a little bit of time in between. And I think it's pretty smooth that way.
Yeah, I agree. We do get a smooth transition into book 2, and it's realistic too. You know, we start with a nightmare. Evan is, having a nightmare that Trigger has consumed more monster blood and is about to eat him. And we learn that it's not even a nightmare, really. I guess it's more of a daydream. To me, it read like a nightmare, like you fell asleep in class, but I guess afterwards they kind of imply he's daydreaming about that. But either way, he's having traumatic responses to what he experienced in book 1.
It's a daymare.
It's a daymare. Usually daydreams we choose. And I don't know why he would want to choose to have that kind of monster reaction. But to me, obviously, he's got some trauma, right, from the first one.
Evan needs to talk to someone for sure.
Now, apparently, Evan did talk to someone. He talked to the kids when he moved to the new city, told them all about Monster Blood, and they immediately started making fun of him, and he became targeted as the new kind of, I don't know what you would call that, bullseye for all the kids, but mostly the class bully, school bully, Conan, the barbarian barber.
That's pretty on the nose, but yeah.
It was on the nose, but this is for children, so I guess you kind of have to be on the nose.
Right, I know. It's like RL is like, hey kids, check out this R-rated movie.
I don't think they realized.
Probably
Maybe
not.
they did. I don't know. They strolled through their local Blockbuster. Nostalgia, anybody?
I'll take some.
Oh, I miss Blockbuster and Hollywood Video.
Hollywood was my jam.
All the wonderful memories, by the way, of the excitement of walking into the store and you hear the ding, and then just rows and rows and rows of millions of worlds all at your fingertips to put it in your VCR and hit play.
I miss it. It was so much more fun than digitally scrolling through streaming services for hours and not finding anything to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is something exciting about being able to pick up like a book, something where the cover gets you, you read the back to see what the synopsis of the movie is if you don't know what it's about, because trailers weren't as frequent back then.
Right.
And so unless it was a blockbuster, really summer hit kind of movie or whatever, like a mainstream, you're not going to know what it's about. And so it was exciting to read the breakdown and take that gamble, right? Like, do I
Yeah.
do it? Do I go for it? Nowadays, I mean, yes, it's handy to be able to see like a mini scene as you hover over a movie in the streaming platform that you're in, or you get to see the full blown trailer. But back then it was like a little bit of a dice game, right? Roll of
It
the
was.
dice. Like, am I
Yeah.
going to like it? I got to go home, put it in, and find out.
I'm dedicating $5 to this. I better like it.
I'm dedicating $5. And that was a lot of money back then,
was a
especially
lot
as
of money.
kids. We didn't have that.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I still remember one of the best summers of my life. Blockbuster did like a movie pass thing where you could pay, I think it was something pretty reasonable, like $50 and get movies all summer long, as many as you wanted. And I watched a lot of movies at that point. I mean, because like cards on the table, you and I are both like media junkies to a degree, I think. Like we love movies, we love books, we love stuff like this. Like it's our bread and butter. So that's the formation for me. And I assume it might be for you too.
Yeah, I would say I hella consumed in every realm, whether it's, I love like exactly how you put it, media junkies, because whether it was books, whether it was music, and still is that way, books, music, movies, like I will take it, all of it,
Yes.
give it to me. I needs it now. So
Just
comic
put it in my
books,
veins. Yeah, comic books.
games, like all of it. I was about that life.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
So yeah, perhaps these kids might understand the Conan reference if they went into their local video store and saw the cover, but I doubt they were watching the movie.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, but we have Conan. He lives up to his name. He is big, he's bulky, he consistently pounds Evan, and he is a total barbarian.
It's fitting, for sure.
What I found kind of sad but funny is Conan gives Evan a chance to hit him, and Evan punches him but only hurts himself. I'm like, oh, bud, you gotta take some classes.
Mm-hmm. Come on, man.
But we learned that's a ploy. Conan did that just so that Mr. Murphy would see it. Oh, good old Mr. Murphy, who apparently has eyes and ears to catch everything that Evan does, but, you know, misses the blatant bullying right in front of his face by Conan. So,
Teacher of the year right there. Yeah,
it's Teacher of the Year.
Yeah, and so worse than just being a brute, Conan is clever.
I mean, it is a little scary. Conan's got brains and brawn, and it's not okay because he is scary in his ability to strategize, and he's observant. I mean, to know Mr. Murphy's nearby, but not make it apparent to Evan, and that happens multiple times. And then, you know, Evan's punishment, of course, is he has to take care of the class pet, Cuddles, after class. So he's got to clean his cage, and Evan's like grumbly about it. I don't want to clean his cage. I don't want to feed him.
Right.
And he goes on his whole Cuddles day out adventure when Cuddles takes off across, you know, and I love the description. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure it wasn't meant to be humorous. It was probably supposed to build tension, but instead, you know, to me, I was laughing. Just this idea of Cuddles being on the ledge of the window, and then he like literally just hops off. Like, wee, off I go into the netherworld.
Cuddles the suicidal hamster? I'm not sure.
I guess, because I feel like most rodents like scurry down things. And no, this hamster straight jumped out the window. And he takes off. He makes it all the way across the baseball diamond. And of course, who finds the hamster? Conan.
Of course.
Traumatized hamster. And Conan tries to make Evan beg, you know, to get the hamster back. And Mr. Murphy shows up. And I'm surprised how Conan was able to twist that around.
I know.
I don't know if I'm impressed or terrified of this little Machiavellian sociopath child, but he got it turned on Evan. And I think, is it after that Evan runs into Andy?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe he's walking home kicking rocks, basically, and happens to see her.
Yeah, he's kicking rocks. And we find out that Andy's parents now, her parents are out of the picture. They've left her so they could go abroad for a year, which I think it was her choice, right? She didn't want to go with them, so she decides to stay with her aunt. So she's happy because she's going to be up the street from Evan.
Right. This is where the coincidences get a little too coincidental for me when she shows up.
For sure. I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong in my read of this or if you interpreted it differently, but I felt like they really changed her character personality quite a bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because I feel like in the first one, she was super friendly to Evan and she was kind and kind of stood up for him against the bullies that were in that town and just kind of down to adventure with him. And I feel like in this book, throughout the entire book, she was really dismissive of his feelings. She kind of borderline mocked him. And she just was devil may care, do what I want.
Yeah, she was definitely more of an instigator too, in terms of causing the problems.
She really was. And given what they knew about Monster Blood, you think that she would have been more cautious because she kind of was the voice of reason a bit in the first one. And in this one, she's just like, bah ha ha, give it to everybody. Monster blood to you, monster blood to you. And you get a monster blood and you get a monster blood. Like,
she's a regular Oprah. Yeah.
Yeah, she turned into a regular something. But it felt like a completely different character than the one that we experienced. Yes, she was true to name and how she dressed, I guess.
Right.
But that was about it.
This is Mirror Andy.
This is Mirror. That's the in-between book we didn't read, right? Mirror Andy. Out to cause a wild rumpus and run amok. But I don't like what they did with her character. And I don't like that they used her to be the one to cause all the issues. Because ultimately, yes, he was the one being bullied. Yes, the hamster was the bane of his existence, but he wasn't going to do anything about it. She's the one that, spoiler alert, feeds monster blood to the hamster.
Right.
She's the one that opens it to begin with and decides to keep it. So this is really Andy's fault.
Yeah. Andy's the villain of this story in a lot of ways.
They needed her, or I shouldn't say they even needed her. They used her to propel the story in this case. And I really am not sure I like that too much.
I agree.
So how did you feel about them breaking into Conan's house to get the monster blood? I just like the...
I don't know. I mean, breaking and entering, like that's fun.
That's fun.
I mean, I didn't feel good about it. I'll just put it that way. Like, it blurs the line of like who is right and wrong in this situation, who is, the hero versus the villain. And that's something that we've been kind of struggling with a lot of these books lately, is that the good people make a lot of not so good decisions.
And I mean, that's life. There's
true.
No black and white world. There are shades of gray and people do things that they normally wouldn't do. I feel like how they twisted Andy's character in this one, I feel like it's something she would absolutely do. Because that's just her at this point. And I feel like for Evan, though, even though they tried to imply, or they wasn't even implied, even though Andy said it was his idea, he was still very hesitant and like, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. You know what, this is probably a bad idea. Yeah. And he is surprisingly the voice of reason throughout most of this book, which we rarely see with our protagonists.
I mean, it's just such a switch up from the characters that we knew. It starts to feel like, are these new characters?
And maybe Up until this point, the focus has been bullying, which we
Hmm.
see in this, obviously,
Right.
and our characters making bad choices due to bullying.
Right.
So they're getting back at their bullies, but by getting them back, they're harming themselves. And so that kind of moral of the story of vengeance really isn't good for anybody involved. Whereas in this one, I feel like this was more of a peer pressure book
Hmm.
that, yes, we have the bully, but in the face of bullying and given the choice to get back at his bully, he was choosing not to.
Right.
And his friend was peer pressuring him into doing things he wouldn't normally want to do or vocalized that he didn't want to do.
Right.
And so maybe this one's more of like a peer pressure in the face of bullying story.
That's a solid takeaway.
And maybe Monster Blood, I'm going out on a limb here,
Okay.
but maybe Monster Blood represents like illegal substances in this book because it's something that can get out of hand quickly, right?
Yeah.
Like a small thing went a long way.
Right.
I don't know if that's like a dare ad in there, but it's
I
just
was gonna
like
say
just one hit can chaos
it's true.
can turn a
Dare.
cute little hamster into a murderous, monster.
Right. Dare to resist drugs and monster blood.
So perhaps this book, and maybe all of them, I'd have to reread Monster Blood 1 to see if we replace Monster Blood or make it synonymous with analogous to drugs. Maybe then there is a different story here. Because let's be real, as we reread these as adults, we're starting to highlight what RL was trying to slip into them, message wise, moral of the story wise. As kids, we're like, ooh, scary. And as adults, we're like, oh, okay. This
He's
is the
trying to teach
moral of
us
the story.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
representing something else. And so maybe for Monster Blood is the monster in your blood, which is illegal substances. I don't know.
I like where your head's at though. Like that's interesting. I mean, I feel like he definitely was trying to maybe teach something here. Or maybe we're giving him too much credit. Maybe he was just like, ooh, green goop is popular. Let's write a book about it being evil. I don't know.
So I do feel reading it as an adult, they were trying to slip in moral of the stories here, which is why they probably were being pushed through Scholastic. Let's go 300 Junior for a moment.
Let's do it.
We have an episode where we talk about the psychology of horror and the idea that in the past, horror in the 80s and 90s was used as a funnel to teach moral of the stories, lessons. And so by hiding it very subtly, or not even hiding it, but integrating it and weaving it into a story where people are consuming it out of fear, you're associating these morals and these lessons with an emotion and a strong trigger of fear. So it teaches you like, don't do that, hand smack.
Right.
Little did they realize people were going to be excited about it. So it kind of backfired.
A little bit.
And if you think about it, folklore, even outside of horror movies, folklore in a lot of cultures, urban legends, things like that, they use fear to teach you not to do something. And so in this case, I do feel like Goosebumps is following that same psychological path of let's teach a lesson, but we're going to weave it into the story that is completely different or like misdirection so that you don't realize you're learning
Right.
a moral that you normally probably roll your eyes to, like drugs are bad, okay, kids, okay, Miss Maggie. Like Monster Blood is scary, kids. Don't take even a little because it turns you into a raging monster. I don't know. This is my thought. If I were to give a different read to this, like if I were to put on the lens of what is it trying to teach, what messages is it trying to send kids, I think that in this case it is peer pressure, but peer pressure when pertaining to substance abuse and substance use, because his friend is the one that is pressuring him to use the monster blood. His friend is pressuring him to empower himself with monster blood.
It's true. Yeah, I feel like 1994 Dare was at its pinnacle, right? Like that's when I remember it being strongest, and yeah, I think you're onto something.
It's just a thought, because even when she first produces it and shows what her parents sent, albeit if it's drugs, parents should be sending it, but you know what I
Well,
mean. Her parents have sent it. His first reaction is, we need to get rid of it. We need to hide it.
mhm,
And this is bad. You know what this can do. I thought you remembered what this does. And she agrees with him at first. They hide it. And, we find out that Conan was watching the entire time and takes it.
mhm,
So hence, if we're going through this through the spiral of drugs and peer pressure, now they're breaking and entering to get their substance.
yeah,
Now they're lying to each other over these substances. So
not great.
not great. And poor little Cuddles. Like, he's already traumatized from his jumping out the window and his Cuddles Day Out adventure. So he's like trembling in his cage. And he comes into school to find that Cuddles has grown in size. He is now the size of, what was it, like a guinea pig or something?
Mm, yep.
And if anyone that knows a hamster, that's a big difference in size. And Mr. Murphy, of course, because Goosebumps always makes the adults doofuses. Mr. Murphy's like, he's overeating. That's what this
Mhm.
is. My hamster's grown 5 times in size, but it's because he's eating too much in a few days.
Yep. He's a year and a half old, but this sudden change must mean he's eating too much.
Too much. Apparently, they grow bone structure and everything because they ate too much.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's possible RL's never had a hamster and doesn't know this, but I would like to think he did.
I mean, I just think they make the adults so oblivious
Yeah,
so that the kids do feel like they're on their own and they have to handle it on their own.
it's true. Yeah. Although I feel like this teacher may be one of the most oblivious adults we've had in any of these books.
There were some interesting things written in this that makes me question if this was RL, though. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Just from a literary kind of intellectual perspective, I think at the beginning of the book, they make a reference to elephants' hoofs or something like
Mhm.
that. It's like he makes a sentence about like an elephant's hooves. And I'm like, elephants don't have hooves. He made a metaphor and it included something about elephants' hooves. And I typed a note off to myself. And it was just like, elephants don't have hooves. And maybe that was supposed to be through the lens of a kid. So it's like, okay, elephants don't have hooves, but that's coming from a kid. So that's fine.
Maybe.
But
Yeah.
for me, I'm just like, wait a minute. You had a whole chapter or 5 about bee facts.
I know.
But you don't know that elephants don't have hooves.
Yeah. He, I guess, forgot all his elephant facts when he learned all that bee science.
Someone bumbled that one. And I don't even remember that being a popular phrase. So it's not even like hey, that was a common thing we said back then.
Right.
Because it's just like, hold on. That's not even a phrase that's used. So where is it? Where did you get that from?
Just making shit up.
I felt like someone got a little weird, casual, like half paid attention when they were writing that.
Right.
Just saying. But yeah, that was what was. There was a lot of parts in this book, a lot of pieces in this book where I was just like, were you paying attention when you wrote this?
He was sleep typing again.
Yeah, I do like that they still involve Trigger a little bit. I mean,
Little bit.
obviously, this isn't about Trigger eating monster blood. It's about Cuddles. But I do like that when they're breaking into the house, Trigger almost gets them caught because he's barking at them while they're standing outside the window. And he's
Right.
going nuts. And I'm like, yeah, Trigger, you tell on them.
Mm-hmm. Good dog, Trigger.
Do dog snitches get stitches?
Only when they're neutered.
Which something tells me he was neutered long ago.
I would imagine so. That dog snitch had Stitch. Wait.
The dog snitch had stitches? The dog that snitches had stitches.
There we go.
There we go.
Got
Fixed
it.
it.
Figured it out.
Woo! So I do feel like they spent a really long time on this book drawing out parts that didn't need to be drawn out. So once again, we had a climax and ending that was like way rushed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I'm not sure if I'm upset about that. Like I don't know, a sumo wrestling contest with a giant hamster is it's a weird outro.
I'm not saying that had to be drawn out, but like they spent so long on the bullying part. Mm-hmm. Like the fact that, can we talk about how the hell did Conan slam dunk him into a basketball net?
I don't know.
Like Conan wasn't that big, but like the fact that even made it in basketball tryouts, he picks him up and puts him in the basketball net.
Okay, so you read that too. I honestly hoped I had dreamed it. Like,
nope, it was in there.
So
absolutely
dumb.
In there.
Yeah.
And like, what is the purpose of this? Mm-hmm. Like, I get they want to emphasize why he would want to get him back, but the reality of it is even then, none of his actions were driven on getting him back. It was all Andy. So drawing out the torment didn't make sense because Andy just wanted to cause like chaos. So it didn't matter what Conan did.
Andy wants to watch the world burn.
She does. And like, my girl, I identify, but what the hell?
It was a lot.
It was. And then like the whole emphasis on the dad's like metal sculptures, and that takes up a whole scene. Mm-hmm. And then, we got to get it when, Cuddles is 30 times larger and trying to eat everybody. And it's like, oh, we got to get this wheel. My dad made it. So you're thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense. Plot device, recall from a previous chapter. And then Cuddles chomps that up in 2 seconds and on we go. What's the next solution?
Right. Oh.
Skirwonkety.
It is a mess.
That is the word I use for shit shows like this.
Skirwonkety.
Skirwonkety is what I use, where things just go beyond chaos. They are just all over the place. They are skirwonkety. And I do feel like this book was skirwonkety. I think that the morals they were trying to embed in got lost. Mm-hmm. Because the emphasis was on so many things, like slam dunking Evan into a basketball goal and
breaking and entering.
And it just didn't know where to align. I feel like there were a lot of lanes this was trying to go on, and it just couldn't pick a lane. It couldn't pick a track. And so for me, it just didn't land. And then the fact that like Cuddles went from getting a little bigger to full blown. Yeah. And
full blown hamster.
Like full blown, what did they say? He was the size of, I can't even remember now, but like he was almost the size of the door. Yeah. And he's eating things. He's going to eat Mr. Murphy. He's going to eat Conan. He's like eating the desks. He's just eating. He's an eating little beast. And
which is what hamsters do. And I imagine one that size would just be looking to nosh,
And he was going on a nom fest.
A nom to the max.
Nom to the max. So it's just so many things that make sense for me. And this is where I think they got careless with the world they created. In Monster Blood 1, Trigger ate just some of it. Mm-hmm. And he grew every day more and more and more. Right. So it was incremental. So a small dose was incremental to his growth. In this one, she gave Cuddles a decent dose. I mean, it was little for humans, but for a hamster, that was probably a very healthy helping. Yeah. And that also seemed to go incremental for the first day. Like, oh, he's like the size of a guinea pig. Oh, he's the size of his cage the next day. And then, oh, he's the size of a building. Like, what? Hold on. You skipped some steps here. You ran out of pages.
Mm-hmm. But they didn't. That's the part that gets me.
I know. But then here's where it goes even more off the rails is Evan then decides I'm going to eat some.
Yeah.
And what happens?
He grows immediately.
Immediately grows to the size of Cuddles. And it's like,
Yeah.
hold on. What is the algorithm to this thing?
It's, yeah. It's so frustrating because, this book changes the characters and then it just ignores its own science that it's trying to build, which is very loose. And I'm fine with that. Like, it didn't bother me in the first book because it was consistent. But this goes against everything, even in its own book. You know, like it's frustrating.
I mean, you're not wrong. And the hard part is that they had a solid base they could have followed from because it didn't deviate in the first one. And in the second one, it started to follow that. And then just boom, never mind. We do what we want.
Peace. Yeah.
Peace out.
Peace out.
And of course, like he's going to get eaten by Cuddles too because he can't even sumo wrestle like a hamster.
Right. Fighting is not this kid's forte.
It is not. Like this hamster has little bitty arms. He's got little bitty arms and yet he's taking them down.
He got big old teeth though.
Yes, he does. He got big old. Yes, they do. So they can go on nom nom fests.
That's it.
But even he can't. I mean, he can't fight the hamster off. He's about to get eaten, and then they hear a pop. Because apparently it's air. It's air they're made of.
That's right.
And they're all back to normal size. And why?
Because the monster blood expired.
Because apparently monster blood has expiration dates.
Which, I mean, when they found it in Annabeth or whatever the hell her name was in her cabinet, or no, whenever they got it at the toy store, sorry. Like, it had clearly been sitting there for years. So, I mean, is this from the same batch? Was Monster Blood made once? And then, you know, like, how is there an expiration date on this, but there was never one in the first one?
I don't know.
I don't expect you to. I'm not holding you to the answer, but it's dumb. That's the only word I can think of. I don't I don't like what they did here.
Well, and I think they're missing something too of the monster blood is essentially not supposed to be evil.
Right.
So in this one, the can, when he sticks his hand in the can, it tries to suction him in and eat him. And then when it's in the locker, it envelops him all the way to consume him. And Andy's the one that has to pull him out of it. And so it's like, it was never supposed to be evil in the first place. The only reason it was evil per se in the first book was because the witch put a spell on it. It's really just something that grows and grows and grows, right? In theory.
Yeah.
And in this one, it's like, well, who put a spell on this one? Because she's not here.
Right.
It was, what was it, Sarabeth?
Sarabeth, yeah.
It's just like she put the spell on it to try and eat him and destroy him in the first one. But in this case, this is just in a can. It hasn't been opened. The assumption is it's never been opened because it doesn't start growing until Andy opens it. So again, we're deviating from the world that was created.
Right. Yep. A lot of deviations in this one. And it really does make me feel like RL probably didn't write this book. Like, at least not completely.
Or he didn't reread his original to
That's
be
possible.
familiar with the world. Because he's creating a lot of worlds. In each book, there is a unique world that's being created within the Goosebumps universe. And lots of rules, lots of things to the universe that he is creating. So in this one, by revisiting Monster Blood World, it might have benefited him or whoever wrote it to reread the first one so they could write down on like a little serial killer board. Here are the main characters.
Yep.
Here's what happened. And here are the rules. We created 2 Monster Blood in the world.
Yeah. 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 The rules were missing.
Unless rules go out the window because it's close to expiration. So like any ingredient that's close to its expiration date, it doesn't act as intended or as originally used. So Possibly because it was going bad, everything was going off wire. That's me giving them the benefit of the doubt, by the way.
That's very kind.
That's me knowing as a baker when things are about to expire, like certain things don't act right.
Right.
But I don't know if they know that.
Yeah.
And that's the concern is I don't know if they know that. It should be clear if that's the case.
I agree.
So they pop, they shrink back, all is well. Nobody says what happened to the monster blood in the hallway, by the way.
True.
Is it like when it expired, did it just disappear?
Just sizzled.
It popped.
Again with the popping, like
pinching monsters. Hey, horrors. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. So if you can pop the monsters, it works for the monster blood too.
I guess that's true. Is this
nobody
their blood?
tried to pop Cuddles? Oh. Maybe that's where monster blood comes from.
I'm hoping so. That one guy who brought them their passes for next year. Yeah.
Did he get dissected for his blood?
I mean,
oh, that's twisted.
Humans do things like that.
So you've got like evil mad scientist who creates the masks and turns them into the monsters from Horrorland. And when the monsters are done monstering, he puts them in his basement and drains them of their blood and puts them in cans. But there's an expiration date.
And then cuts their heads off and makes a new mask.
To start the cycle again.
To start, yes.
Whoa, look at us. We were tying them. We did it. We solved it. Lo hicimos. Swiper, no swiping. So
I almost went for Blue's Clues. So at least we're on the Nickelodeon train.
Or we could go the Mickey train. No, don't. They'll shut us down. Hot dog.
Oh, boy.
Dog. Oh, boy.
Copyright.
Oh no. Oh, we got popped by the mouse. This all stays in. We're wacky. Okay. So Monster Blood has apparently disappeared because that's another plot hole loosened that they left open. And so we don't know where it went from the hallway because it had taken up her entire locker, was all over the floor, tried to eat Evan. Who knows who else it was trying to eat while they were in the classroom trying to take on Cuddles.
Yeah.
We get a semi-victory because Evan was brave enough to consume the monster blood, not knowing what it could do to him, of Conan crying and like sobbing and running out of the classroom and sumo wrestling. Like it's everything, everything you want.
Sure.
But of course, he can't even get a break from that because Little Miss Instigator shows up at his house with a surprise. They got another can of monster blood from Germany this time.
Ooh,
and
German monster blood.
I already opened the can. Surprise. But of course, she promises not to use it. She also promised not to feed it to Cuddles, and well, look where her promises go.
Mm-hmm. She's not very honest.
She's not. He really needs to probably choose better friends here because peer pressure and you have dishonest friends. They say you are who your friends are. Show me who your friends are. I'll show you who you are. Well, Andy and Evan. Evan, you should probably get some new friends.
Yeah, it'd be good. Be real good.
Especially now that all the kids believe him about Monster Blood, and he's probably not going to be bullied after sumo wrestling like a giant hamster. So,
I mean, that's how I made a lot of friends. So,
I figured.
Yeah.
Sumo wrestled a hamster.
Yeah.
What'd that poor little hamster do to you?
Well, tried to eat my French fry.
That's what happens.
Don't mess with my French fries. No.
Yeah. And of course, this isn't an RL book without a little bit of a cliffhanger twist ending. So they leave Cuddles because Mr. Murphy's like, I'm done with Cuddles. He's like, this is your reward for, everything you did. But realistically, we know Mr. Murphy is terrified of Cuddles at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Because Cuddle tried to eat him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gives the hamster to Evan and takes off quickly. Very quickly.
Right. He just quits that day and goes to another school.
For sure. He's like, take the hamster, I'm out. So Evans leaves because apparently Evan hasn't learned his lesson and leaves the hamster on the same desk that Andy left the monster blood.
Evan.
So they eat dinner, they go have a blast, they come back in, and Evan, of course, is like, Cuddles, what are you eating? Oh
Dun dun dun.
no. Dun, dun, dun. Because somehow the hamster got out of his cage again.
Well, having had a couple hamsters, that's not out of the realm of possibility. However, yes.
You don't leave Cuddles, the escape artist, window jumper, next to a can of monster blood. Like that just, what are these kids thinking?
Evan.
I just keep wanting to say Evanescence.
That explains why he was screaming "Wake me up" at the beginning of the book.
Nice. Well played.
Thank you.
Oh, you win for the day.
Well.
So you've been winning the internet a lot lately for the day. You were quick.
I hang with improv people.
Apparently.
And I'm the slow one, so.
It shows. I mean, not that you're slow, that you hang with improv people. You got what I meant. Okay.
Maybe both.
How would you fix this? Because good Lord, this book needs fixing.
Yeah. Last episode, I made a joke about how I wouldn't have written it. I wish I had to save that for this book. But yeah, I would have honestly just tried to stick more with the rules in the universe that I had set. Like there's a good bone structure here, but it's just everything on top of it is chaotic and inconsistent. So I don't particularly know how I would rewrite each scene, and it would take an hour probably for us to go through all the scenes that are broken. But how about you?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have Conan slam dunking him into a basketball hoop, because that makes zero sense to me. And totally. I'm wondering if Conan is on Monster Blood.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, I probably would not have deviated from Andy's character so much. I would have made the series of unfortunate incidents driven by Evan and Andy kind of trying to help tag along like she was in the first one. That's kind of where I still would have probably had her bring it, because how else would he get it? So yeah, sure. Look what my parents sent me, and like them deciding to bury it. Like I wouldn't deviate from that, how it came back too much, but definitely like her being the agent almost makes him not responsible in any way for what occurred in this book. And I would like to give him more ownership.
For sure. Yeah, that's a good call.
Yeah, I mean, he could still have his like voice of reasoning, talking it out with her, but ultimately still making bad decisions, because he is the protagonist and his character growth isn't really doing much if the world is happening around him.
Good point.
So,
yeah,
it's kind of what I would fix, is just having to make more of those ultimate choices in Andy being there. Now, I understand maybe if this was the peer pressure and the friends pushing drugs, then maybe, I guess, you keep it the way it is. But I really am not sure that was really the intention. So if I were to fix that, I probably would shift that a bit. And to your point, I would make it fit more in the universe rules that were established in book 1.
Yeah. Yeah. Because now, I mean, and also like they don't even touch on the fact that like they met a witch, right? Like there's a lot of things that happen in the first book that just like gone with the wind. They don't matter.
They don't bring it up at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, maybe that's why Andy thinks the monster blood is a little more harmless, because there isn't a witch this time, but they didn't say that.
Yeah,
so
I know.
A lot of assumptions from us, but not much actually being given in the book.
Right. And we are being very generous with...
so generous.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I would have at least thrown a line in, like when they first see each other, like, oh, you remember when we confronted that witch? Wasn't that shit crazy? Like, you know, like just something to tie back to it.
Or her even saying, like, you know what? There isn't a witch to put a spell on this. It's probably not bad. Let's give it to Cuddles and see what happens.
One sentence, yes.
One little sentence and all the extra unnecessary fluff they put in there.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been one sentence kind of implying why she would do that
Yeah.
and why maybe she's as reckless as she is in this book versus the first book.
Yeah, I dig it. What do you predict for the third one? In terms of, well, okay, let me just ask. Do you think that that the third one will pick up right where this one left off, or do you think we'll get some time in between? Or do you think the events of this one even matter to the third one?
I'm not sure. Given if they follow the trend of this one, it'll tie to this one. Because so I keep saying this one. Given the trend of book 2 to tie to so closely to book 1, I would think they would continue that. But considering that they threw the rules out and things went really skirwonkety, it's possible they go a completely different route as well. So I honestly can't say I'm able to predict that one.
Yeah, I can't either. I'll be curious to see what they do with it, though, because I don't know how many times they can regurgitate this story. And we know they do it at least 4 in the classic line. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, I remember this book. I thought the cover was fun with the, giant hamster. I do wish for all the monster blood and emphasis this was supposed to have, I do wish they had focused on the giant hamster a little more and the growing hamster because we had that with Trigger. They were
yeah,
scared for Trigger. They were looking into things for Trigger. And so there really was an emphasis on what monster blood can do.
right.
In this one, I don't think they focused as much.
Mm-mm. I agree. I had the little Taco Bell kids meal toy for Cuddles the hamster. That's like my connection to this.
I had a gerbil. So for me, I was excited for this and it didn't scare me like, oh my God, my gerbil's going to eat, monster blood and grow. I'm like, nah, my gerbil loved me. So we're cool.
If he grows, I'll just ride on its back.
My gerbil's name was Baby Love.
Baby Love. Oh, that's cute. I had a hamster. I had 2 hamsters. Oh Lord, this is gonna date me, but their names were MC Hamster and Sir Squeaks a Lot.
Oh my God, that is epic. And I love that. I'm so glad you told me that. Those are the best names ever. If I ever get another squeaky type animal, I'm naming it Sir Squeaks a Lot Part 2.
You should.
I just have Baby Love. So I got Baby Love at a pet store. My dad got Baby Love for me for my birthday. And I got into the car and he's like, what are you going to name it? And I was like, I don't know. And the radio turned on and it was that one song, Baby Love,
Yeah.
my baby love. And so I was like, Baby Love, perfect. And it
That's
just
awesome.
stuck. So I had
love
Baby
that.
Love.
That's a great name, though.
Yeah.
And it's a great song.
So I'm with you, though, in terms of with this book continuation, who knows where it's going to go.
I can't say I'm excited to find out, but we will.
I think in theory, Monster Blood always has potential to be something fun and awesome given what it does. It causes whoever consumes it to grow and grow and grow and grow. And I don't think it's inherently bad. You and I have discussed that because Trigger wasn't bad. When Trigger ate the Monster Blood, he was actually just a happy, dopey big dog.
Yeah.
Cuddles turned into a nom nom machine who was going to eat people too. So maybe Cuddles isn't the nicest. Sure. But I'd be curious, like, does it just adapt depending on who's consuming it? Like, if you give it to a person, are they just going to stay the same but be huge? If you gave it to a serial killer, would they, get huge and just squish a lot of people? I don't know. I don't think inherently Monster Blood itself is bad. I think it's who you give it to.
I can agree with that. Monster Blood's kind of like a bacteria or something. Its only job is to grow. But it can be harmful in its own right. So I think that, like if someone with a negative personality type consumes it, perhaps it makes their negative personality stronger or worse somehow. But
okay. It magnifies it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this must have just been an evil hamster. Like sometimes you get those.
I mean, they described the hamster's face when it was tiny as looking pissed off and like beady little eyes. And so, like,
Right.
of course, as it's huge, you see its anger even more.
Yeah.
It's not a happy little hamster, but
Mm-mm. I'm no science experiment.
maybe if you give it to something happy, it just stays happy. Like Trigger. We saw with
Yeah.
Trigger. He was just a
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky guy.
That's what I want to believe, but I also just think that the rules were out the window. So
That there are no rules.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
So then, what book do we have next?
Up next, we have book number 19, Deep Trouble.
Ooh.
Stay out of the water.
Stay out of the water. And given I'm someone who doesn't like to swim in the ocean because of sharks and things like that, the cover definitely plays on some of my like fears as a child and an adult. Still don't swim in the ocean if I don't have to. So excited to read this. I'm not sure I have read it, so I'm going to reread it and see.
This is one that I've read more recently, like within the past 20 years. I don't think I read it back in the day, but like Jaws is one of my all-time favorite movies. So it also helped me cultivate a healthy fear of the ocean, like you said. So I'm excited to revisit this one.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Jaws was a big one that had come out prior to this, right? When was Jaws released?
74
75?
or 5, yeah.
Okay. So, this was 94, 20 years later. So, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it was inspired by Jaws, but I feel like it probably was.
Yeah. But so long as it was inspired by Jaws and none of the sequels.
You be nice.
I'm sorry to all the Jaws the Revenge fans out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested because some of the taglines are like just when you thought it was safe, like to go into the water or something like that, which I feel like plays off of the Jaws taglines. You'll never go in the water again. Don't go to the water. Stuff like that. So I'm like, all right, RL. Or Ghost Rider. But we'll see.
Ghost RL.
Ghost RL. We'll see. So I'm excited. And we are still on the monthly releases. So this one will have taken place or been released a month after Monster Blood 2, which I believe was like April 94. So let's see how it goes. Another shorty. I see it's 117 pages. So another shorty.
Even shorter.
All right. So on your scale of 1 to 10, where does this one place so far?
1 to this is probably the worst.
Okay. For me, I'd probably give this like a 2.
Yeah.
Nah, we're going 1.
Yeah, this is rough. I mean,
I was trying not to be mean, but we're going 1.
Sometimes you just gotta. Like, it's rare that I have no hesitation in saying this sucks, but like, I feel like this book kind of sucks. Like, there's not enough redeeming in it to, like, make me want to give it a benefit of a doubt.
No, I'm with you. I'm going with this one would not be one I would reread, and I'm actually really grateful they didn't make a corresponding episode to it. I feel like the episode 2 we got for Monster Blood in the season, which was like taking place on the airplane, sufficed as a better sequel than this. So
thank you for mentioning that. I did want to just touch on that. Like, that is a more exciting sequel than anything this book gave us. Monster Blood in a plane, I'm there for it.
I'm here for Monster Blood in a plane. Oh, that is like a tongue twister. I'm here for Monster Blood 2, Blood on a Plane, and that sounds like a horror movie.
It does.
So I'm with you. This one, not the sequel I would have wanted. The one in the TV episode, the sequel we needed. So
yes. And also one of the kids' name in the sequel episode was Conan. So I think that was a reference.
They tried to make a little bit of a reference. I dig it because this was no bueno.
Poop.
All right. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to Listeners Beware. Are you looking for more spooky podcast content? Check out 3 Haunted Podcast, where Ashley and friends talk about all the things that go bump in the night. Head on over to 3hauntedpodcast.com, where you'll find all of our information on episodes and merch.
And if you're looking for something a little nostalgic, check me out at the Wax Nostalgic Network. waxnostalgicnetwork.com and wherever you get your podcasts.
Until next time. That's me knowing as a baker when things are about to expire, like certain things don't act right.
And also, as we've learned from horror movies, some people don't act right when they're about to expire.
That
was mostly for you.
Thank you. I said thank you very much.
Yes.
We know how much I love my horror.
It's true.
It's spooky.
It's like you have a podcast about it.
Oh my gosh, right? I should totally do that.
You should. Maybe have another one about Goosebumps too.
Yeah, I mean, here we are just sitting talking about these books that we've been rereading. We should probably hit record or something.
Oh, yeah. What is it? Huh. Oh, there's a record button?
Oh, man. You remember when we started an episode and realized we hadn't hit record?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, the joy of having a podcast.
We're professionals.
We're professionals. You know how hard that is to say that?
You nailed it.
I had to think about it. Yeah. Okay. I'm like, you got this. Words, things, syllables. I can get it to say wrong.
Straight crushing.
Oh, yeah.
And if you are looking for something that is nostalgic, but maybe not as smooth.
Oh my God, Gary!
Not as smooky.